Good morning. I'm going to read from Psalm 128. Across the top of this psalm I've written, God's promise if I. That's the 16th of September 2006. God's promise if I. And so the first verse says, happy or blessed are those who fear the Lord, who follow in your ways. And then he'll go on to talk about the fruit of your labor. He'll go to talk about your relationship with your husband and your wife. He'll go to talk about flourishing within your home. He'll talk about your children. He'll talk about the Lord's reward for those who fear him. He'll talk about the Lord's blessing. He'll talk about your grandchildren. He'll talk about peace. God's promise, if I fear the Lord and follow his ways or put him first. So it's God's promises to us. God's promises, blessing over what your hand finds to do. The blessing over our families, over our church, over your relationships, blessing over your children, if you're blessing over you if you're a single person today, as we put him first. And so we have to be careful of the decisions we make that will affect us, will affect our children, and will affect eternity. And so we're careful on how we make decisions with long-term view. As I follow you, as I fear you, as I follow in your ways, that you said there'll be a blessing over our church, community, city, over our nation, over our families, over our grandchildren, over your future grandchildren, over great-grandchildren, over future generations. I encourage you to, as I've done here, I've scribbled all over this psalm names. I encourage you to take this psalm, maybe even personalize it by putting some names in, and pray it out. Because as I, then this is your promise. And so then use this psalm, prophesy over your family, prophesy over your children, even if you don't have any children. Prophesy over, if you're single today and you want to be married, prophesy over your heart's desire, prophesy over over people in your life, prophesy over your life. Prophesy over God's future for you. Speak peace over you. Speak peace over your family, over our church. Speak peace over your future. Take this psalm and pray it. But remember, it's God's promise to us if I fear him, if I follow him, if I put him first, if I submit to him, if I reverence him, if I honor him, if I give him first place in my life, there's a blessing and a promise that flows according to Psalm 128 over our lives, over our future generations, over our homes, over our church, over our nation, the blessing of the Lord. And so I pray that today, take this psalm and begin to pray it over your life, over your future, over your family. See what God will do as you just put him first. Bless you today, church.